Is depression just feeling sad, or is it something much more? We all feel down sometimes. Life is full of ups and downs, stressful days, heartbreaks, and failures. But depression is not just sadness, and it's not just a temporary rough patch. It's something far deeper, something that alters the way you think, feel, and function every single day. Depression is waking up feeling like a heavy weight is pressing down on you, making even simple things like brushing your teeth or getting out of bed feel exhausting. It's losing interest in everything you used to love. Music sounds dull. Conversations feel pointless. Even the people you care about seem distant. It's as if your mind is trapped in a fog that just won't lift. But here's the tricky part. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. Some people with depression feel empty rather than sad, as if all their emotions have been numbed. Others become irritable, snapping at friends or family over small things. Some people sleep all day, while others can't sleep at all. I'm Dr. Lucid, a digital avatar created to explain complex psychiatric topics in an accessible way. But behind me stands a real psychiatrist and psychotherapist with a subspecialization in geriatrics, ensuring that everything I tell you is based on the latest science and clinical expertise. Today, we'll dive deep into depression, what it is, how it's diagnosed, why so many people suffer without realizing it, and what can actually help. And most importantly, we'll break down the biggest myths about depression that keep people from getting the treatment they need. Let's start with one of the most common questions. How do we actually diagnose depression? How is depression diagnosed? What are the ICD-10 and DSM-5 criteria? Depression isn't just feeling bad. It's a recognized medical condition with specific diagnostic criteria. Doctors don't just diagnose depression based on intuition. They use structured guidelines from two major classification systems. ICD-10, International Classification of Diseases, used worldwide, including in Europe. DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, used mainly in the United States. Both systems define major depressive disorder based on a set of symptoms that must be present for at least 2 weeks. The three core symptoms are persistent low mood, feeling sad, empty, or hopeless most of the day, loss of interest or pleasure in activities once enjoyed, severe fatigue or low energy. In addition, at least 2 to 5 of these symptoms must also be present. Sleep disturbances, insomnia or excessive sleeping, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, or excessive self-criticism, appetite changes, significant weight loss or gain, thoughts of suicide or self-harm. The DSM-5 also classifies depression by severity, mild, moderate, or severe. A mild depression may allow a person to function, but still causes distress, while severe depression can make even the simplest tasks impossible. But here's the catch. Not all depression looks the same. Some people experience atypical depression, where instead of losing appetite and sleep, they sleep too much and overeat. Others suffer from dysthymia, a persistent, long-term depression that is often mistaken for personality traits rather than a medical condition. This is why accurate diagnosis is critical. Many people suffer for years because their symptoms don't fit the textbook definition, and they assume they are just being lazy or weak. In reality, they are dealing with a legitimate treatable condition. How common is depression? The real numbers from the US, Europe, and worldwide depression is one of the most common mental health disorders in the world. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, over 280 million people suffer from depression globally. But what does that really mean in everyday life? Let's break it down by region. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, NIMH, around 21 million adults, 8.3% of the US population, experienced at least one major depressive episode in 2021. Depression is more common in women, 10.3%, than in men, 6.2%. But men are far more likely to die by suicide. The highest rates of depression are seen in young adults aged 18-25, with nearly 18% of this age group experiencing depression. Among adolescents, about 17% of US teenagers experience major depression each year. In Germany, about 8 to 10% of the population experiences depression each year, with women nearly twice as likely to be diagnosed as men. In the UK, about 1 in 6 people, 16.6%, report experiencing depressive symptoms in any given week. A European-wide study found that approximately 7% of adults suffer from clinical depression annually, but this number may be underreported due to stigma. Countries like France and Spain report higher rates, with up to 10 to 12% of adults experiencing major depression. Worldwide trends. Depression is now the leading cause of disability globally. Low and middle-income countries have fewer mental health resources, leading to higher rates of untreated depression. Suicide rates linked to depression vary, but in many countries, depression contributes to nearly 50% of all suicides. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a 25% increase in depression rates globally, especially among young people. What does this tell us? Depression is not rare, and it's not a personal failure. It's a global health crisis that needs more attention, better treatment, and less stigma. What really causes depression? It's more than just a chemical imbalance. For decades, we were told that depression is simply a serotonin deficiency and that antidepressants work by fixing this imbalance. But the truth is far more complex. Depression is not caused by one single thing. It's the result of a mix of biological, psychological, and social factors. Is depression inherited? If you have a close relative with depression, your risk of developing it is significantly higher. Studies on twins have shown that depression is about 30–40% genetic. This means that while your environment plays a big role, your genes can make you more vulnerable. Some people inherit a higher sensitivity to stress, making them more likely to develop depression when faced with challenges. Researchers have also found specific genetic variations that may increase the likelihood of depression, though no single depression gene has been identified. Is it really a serotonin problem? While serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter, plays a role in depression, it's not the whole story. Other neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine are just as important. Brain scans have shown that depression is linked to reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, which controls decision-making and emotions, and overactivity in the amygdala, which processes fear and negative emotions. This could explain why people with depression struggle with motivation and tend to focus on negative thoughts. The real breakthrough in research is that depression is likely linked to problems with neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and form new connections. This is why treatments like ketamine and psilocybin, which promote neuroplasticity, show such rapid effects compared to traditional antidepressants. Childhood trauma and early life stress. Your early life experiences shape the way your brain responds to stress. If you were exposed to abuse, neglect, or extreme stress as a child, your brain develops a higher sensitivity to stress hormones like cortisol. This means that even as an adult, your brain might react to small challenges as if they were life-threatening events. Studies have shown that people who experience childhood trauma are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop depression later in life. Chronic stress and burnout. Even if you had a stable childhood, chronic stress in adulthood can lead to depression. High-pressure jobs, financial problems, toxic relationships, or caring for a sick family member can all lead to long-term stress, which increases inflammation in the body and disrupts brain chemistry. In fact, work-related burnout is now recognized as a major contributor to depression. The modern lifestyle, long work hours, constant digital stimulation and social isolation has created a mental health crisis, with many people developing depressive symptoms without realizing it. Inflammation, the hidden link between physical and mental health. New research suggests that chronic inflammation in the body might play a major role in depression. People with autoimmune diseases, obesity, or chronic illnesses often have higher levels of inflammation, and studies have found that they are also more likely to suffer from depression. Some scientists believe that depression could be the brain's response to inflammation, similar to how you feel tired and withdrawn when you have the flu. This could explain why some people with depression don't respond well to traditional antidepressants, but improve with anti-inflammatory treatments like diet changes, exercise, and even certain medications that target inflammation. Hormonal changes. Why depression spikes in women and older adults. Hormonal fluctuations can trigger depression in both men and women. Pregnancy, postpartum changes, menopause, thyroid disorders, and even chronic stress can throw off hormone levels and increase the risk of depression. This is one reason why women experience depression at higher rates than men. But it also explains why menopause and aging come with a significant increase in depressive symptoms. In men, declining testosterone levels have also been linked to depression, though this is rarely discussed. Why understanding the causes of depression is the first step to recovery. Depression is not just in your head. It's a real medical condition with real biological and environmental causes. It's influenced by genetics, brain chemistry, stress, trauma, lifestyle, and even physical health. The good news? Depression is treatable. Understanding the causes helps us find better treatments, whether through therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, or new breakthroughs like ketamine, psilocybin, and anti-inflammatory treatments. If you want to learn more about the most effective depression treatments, check out my next video where we'll break down antidepressants, therapy, and cutting-edge treatments like esketamine and psychedelics. Subscribe now, because understanding depression is the first step toward recovery. And remember, behind Dr. Lucid is a real psychiatrist, making sure you get expert-backed information that truly matters.